And information from a TSA friend, and there's a lot going on out there that we never hear about. And
really? Tell me what, because there's a couple different types. There's ones that just want the paycheck, but then there's the manager types who keep getting caught in every crime you can imagine: drug dealing, child molesting, raping, murder. I mean, and now by the way, it's admitted they don't even do a background check now. It's like, hey, felons, come on. Stalin did it. Why not? This third hour will be jam-packed with news and Katherine Albrecht. Dr. Katherine Albrecht, expert on the surveillance grid. Right now, let's go back to Dan in Georgia. Dan, so what does your TSA friend tell you?
Well, right now he's suffering from cancer that he got from the machines at the Atlanta airport.
Oh.
And I took some of your articles and emailed them to him. And it created an uproar at the Atlanta airport.
See, we've got to do that. People don't know how they can take all our articles. By the way, John Hopkins, they have cancer clusters for 8 years where they've had naked body scanners in Boston, and they covered it up. 7-fold increase in cancer of the TSA workers. And so it created an uproar, huh, when they got those messages?
Well, yes, they had a lot of people that had gotten sick and disappeared, and a lot of them did get cancer. They know of, but
well, let me stop you right there. That's why Austin, they want to squeeze people. They're scanning everybody in Austin. They're being particularly mean because they know that's what the legislatures are, and because they fought them. Literally, the feds are showing us. But it doesn't matter. Those are all walking dead. So go ahead and laugh at us. You're all dead. Your bosses are going to radiate you. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your friend.
Well, he's a good guy, and he feeds me information like... Just the other week, there was 25 Chilean soldiers come through the airport wearing civilian clothes, and they had to call him because their rifles were not locked. They didn't even have a key to lock their rifles up, and he had to go and try to find a way to lock their rifles.
That's right. Foreigners are allowed to have guns. Citizens are scum. Again, in the new America, the new re-education camp America, we're the bad guys. Anybody else is good.
And he feels that American people just aren't going to wake up, but we still got hope.
Well, I bash the TSA a lot because of the leadership of it and everything, but again, despite all the things I say about them, half the time they go, listen, we want to get, control of the union and not have to do this, and we know it's bad. And I'm like, well, you better quit. And they're like, I need the job. But then every time I refuse the scanner, they send over the manager, and that's always the thug going, Jones, troublemaker. And I look at the guy and I go, you're actually trying to intimidate me? You're not embarrassed to act like this? You're not intimidating. It's really weird. I mean, these people are scum. Can you imagine wanting an authority job so you could swing your weight around on people? Can you imagine how pathetic those people must be?
I'm not cut out like that myself, but I'm not going to the reorganization, retraining camps. In fact, I'm loading magazines now, these 100-round drums, just so that I'll be ready when the time comes. And I've hooked up with some Green Berets, and they know what's going down. And I found myself sitting at a Cracker Barrel restaurant with 3 Green Berets and 3 SWAT team trainers, and I was a low man on the totem pole.
Oh, and you say they're aware of what's going on?
They are aware, and they are preparing. And I've known this one Green Beret most of my life. That's why I'm part of their group now. But they are very aware. In fact, I remember seeing him bring home books about the continuity of government and the building of nation building. And they were classified as restricted, highly restricted. I didn't get to do anything but thumb through them, nothing but writing, but he had to sign for each and every book.
Yeah, it's bad news. Basically, it's money-changing, fractional reserve banking fraud families run the whole planet. They're mopping up the final countries. They want to mop up freedom in America, and they're getting checkmated because our forebears gave us the liberties. They fought for the liberties and put them in place. So it's a time bomb for the New World Order. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us into this hour. It is the 7th day of May 2012 on this Monday edition. We have a wonderful planet, a wonderful country. There are good people all across this world. The good people outnumber the bad people. But if you watch the news, everything is childlike. Everything is done in a joking way, except for when they get real serious and talk to you like you're a child and say the government wants to keep you safe. Well, what is the government? It's not the country. And when the government goes bad, you get tyranny. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. Thomas Jefferson said that. George Washington said similar things. And this is really common sense that we're talking about here, my friends. This is common sense. And it's time to warn everyone you know and say no to the tyranny. I mean, I remember, just to show how our State Department has changed, because it's been corrupt for a long time, but a decade or so ago, the State Department put out reports about China putting baby parts in cosmetics and selling political dissidents' organs. And then a few years later, they put out a piece debunking conspiracy theories with no facts and said that it was a conspiracy theory that China sold political dissidents' organs or used baby parts for different medicines and cosmetics, not mentioning that the State Department previously had talked about it. I mean, the State Department doesn't criticize Chinese human rights abuses on any front now to speak of. And now China uses us as the model, saying we're going to pass our own NDAA to secretly arrest citizens. We're going to do all of this, and it's no big deal. And they said because America did it. Now, let me show you another article, then we're going to go to our guest. Thousands of pills, 17,000 to be exact, filled with powdered human baby flesh discovered by customs officials in South Korea. And this is just one shipment. The pills are very popular. Women think it makes them beautiful. Many of the top cosmetic companies, this came out many years ago, in France, are getting it from babies that have been killed in China. But folks, most of the vaccines you take are grown on dead fetal tissue. I mean, and again, I'd cover this and be called a conspiracy theorist because people couldn't believe this was happening. They just say, oh, you know what? You're making it up. You're making it up. It's not real. You're making it up. Our government would never do something like that. Well, all these governments are doing it. I mean, I just read where human rights aid from England is being used to forcibly sterilize people in India. All of this is giant covert operations going on domestically. Now, again, I heard this last year and didn't believe it and went and looked it up, and sure enough, it was true. And then earlier this year, what was it, in January, a federal court ruled that shareholders aren't allowed to be involved in the decisions or allowed to know exactly what they're doing with the baby parts in Pepsi. But one of our listeners heard me mention this at the first of the show and has made a graphic. It's now posted at Infowars.com on the front page if you want to see it. It says, it shows a Pepsi bottle with a fetus being dropped down on top of it, imitating some of their real ads. And it says, now with dead fetus cells. Refresh your world with dead fetus cells for the flavoring. Well, industries want to take a byproduct and make it profitable. And you got millions of abortions a year here. You got tens of millions in China. I mean, the number's astronomical. And so they want to do something with it. And so now you've got White House advisors and others and top bioethicists coming out and saying babies are like mackerel. That's a quote by Peter Singer. Let's kill them up to age 3. And then the big bioethicist board comes out and says, you know what? Since, the kids, most of them are going to be born autistic or mentally retarded from all the stuff we're doing to them, let's just start killing them. From 1 in 25,000 to 1 in 58 to they're talking in 4 to 5 years, 1 out of 9 to 10. And then a few years after that, it'll be every 1 out of 3. And they're like, everything's fine. Everything's good. The government loves you. Take some more shots. And here's another article out of the Daily Mail. Watch what you type. Surveillance cameras so strong they can zoom in to read text messages. Now, I wanted to get Katherine Albrecht on because I saw a article in WorldNet Daily, and I saw a couple others in the Business Insider and others, and sure enough, went over to DARPA. That's who funds over 90% of the university technology training and research. And there they are saying what I knew a long time ago. They've been chipping some of the special forces and officers for a long time, and heads of state in other countries. That's been in the news. There's been rollouts to chip old people, and there's been rollouts to do things like chipping prisoners. That was in Reuters, and then it got pulled in California. They signed a contract, 6 years ago to do that, but then there was such a backlash it got pulled. So the point is, oh, you want to get in the cool Baja Beach Club, you got to have a microchip. That was going on 6-7 years ago. But now they're coming out saying, yeah, for their safety, for their medical reasons, they need a chip. So again, all this is happening. I wanted to get her on about that, but first I wanted to throw this at her with the internet censorship, CISPA, all this. Katherine, what do you make of the CIA director a month and a half ago admitting that they're building tech in to all the major appliances, dishwashers, computers, cell phones, to track and listen to everybody? Why do you think they're getting so brazen? Where just 6 years ago, Bush would lie and say we're not spying on you without warrants, and now it's just get used to it. What do you think is happening? Why are they doing this right now? Again, Katherine Albrecht, who's a host on this network, needs no introduction. She's also a doctor from Harvard in these areas of research. And, of course, you can find out more at KatherineAlbrecht.com. What do you make of all this, Katherine? Why are they coming out in the open?
Well, it's funny, isn't it, Alex? Because you and I have been warning people about this for over a decade, saying, "Yo, it's coming," and people say, "Oh no, come on, that's that. You're jumping the gun. It's just theoretical. It's just proposals. It's just patent filings. They're never actually going to do it." And it was a couple of years ago. Something actually occurred to me, Alex, and I figured out how they do this. And I'm sure you've also figured this out probably long before I did. That first they'll accuse you of pie in the sky. That'll never happen. Slippery slope, you're imagining things, you're a conspiracy theorist, but they float it out there anyway. They float it out in the Hollywood movies, they float it out in these proposals, they float it out in these weird news articles. Oftentimes I've had to correct a lot of them because they're simply flat wrong about, there was one Reuters put out that was picked up by hundreds of different news outlets that in Mexico, the Attorney General was microchipping his staff, and I actually, went back and tracked it down, and it wasn't hundreds of people like they'd said, it was only a handful. And anyway, so they give you kind of
They do it to normalize it, like, hey, yes, everybody's getting a chip.
But see, what's interesting about it, though, Alex, is when they first put it out there and then you pursue it, it turns out to not be true. So the people who are banging the gong and going, look out, this is terrifying, all wind up with egg on their face. They say, no, it's not happening. That's just Hollywood. Or, no, that wasn't 100 people. That was 3 people. What's wrong with you? And once it gets into the public psychology, and because, 97% of people are sitting there glued to their televisions all day long, once it gets into your psyche and you can overcome that initial reluctance and that initial feeling of revulsion that everybody feels by saying, oh, no, it's not really real. Then you wait a couple of years, then you turn around and you do it for real, and people are past that initial resistance. And at that point, people start saying, oh, yeah, that old thing. And so what I've come to understand is you're either jumping the gun or you're beating a dead horse, but there's never a correct time to criticize the technology, and they've wired the game in such a way, they've rigged it, so we're either too early or we're too late.
That's right, they phase it in to where now it's like, so they're setting up re-education camps to slave labor. I mean, what? Of course they are. We need them.
That's right. That's right. So when you first say it, then they want to dismiss you. You're a nut, and it's impossible. But yet you'll notice that they talk about it a lot. It's not like it's quiet. It gets talked about, but laughed at, ridiculed. So it gets into people's heads, gets into their subconscious, and gets accepted, even though people think they're resisting it. And I'll give you a great example: the movie Minority Report. I know you've talked about this on your show too, Alex. Those spiders, Tom Cruise is he's trying to evade the bad guys, and they've got the spiders, and they come under the door and through the windows, and they go through the apartment onto everybody's bed, and it's just part of the, your papers, please, on steroids, and they scan everybody's irises. And when we all saw that movie years ago, we were like, that's